Welcome to the next episode, everybody. Take a look. We have made some serious progress here, but we got a lot more to talk about in this episode. As you can see here, we've gotten a lot done. This outer edge, as you can see here, is probably the thickest in terms of fiberglass that I've dealt with in the entire demo process of this boat. You can still see the lip over there, and then I've kind of started grinding on it. I was using the oscillating blade to kind of slide under there and cut it off flush, and that's what I was doing up there, but I end up going through probably a blade maybe every 2 or 3 inches, whereas my grinding wheel seems to do really well. You can see a little bit of wetness here, just washed it off back there, but take a look. We got a lot of stress cracks. This is probably the worst I've ever seen. When I said Glastron nightmare, I really meant it. I mean, in some ways, I don't even know if that outer fiberglass is even salvageable. I really don't. I mean, look at that. There are cracks all over the place. And we'll likely need to keep grinding in there to see, and then also probably try to look on the outside as well and see if it matches up in terms of the damage that we see, because if that is the case and that outer shell is completely compromised, I don't know if we can fix this thing. We may end up having to call this one, you know, a boat that you find at the bottom of a lake. That's all that I can say about it. All right, so take a look here. First and foremost, there was a lot of stuff in this rear section that, to be honest, was blocking any kind of future fiberglass work. And that's kind of where we are right now, right? I wasn't able to get this steering cable out of the way. It's kind of tucked underneath pretty well, and I'm not too worried about it at the moment, so I'll probably leave it. But take a look. I removed that steel section here, and it actually kind of even looks bowed. We've got 1 crack, 2 cracks, and big surprise, they kind of go along where the outboard was mounted, and there is kind of a little bit of flex. I think you can see it even on video, like right here. No surprise, right? What probably led to some of the deterioration of the stern back here is these little guys, these little rubber pieces. They're like drains that went in here, and it actually gave the backside direct access to the inners of this. And now that we have a clear look, you can kind of see, I don't know if the manufacturer did this or somebody kind of went in and applied all this sealant, if you want to call it that, but it's not going to work. Looking at the outside, I know we just kind of compared the inside, but I don't see any real cracks in the gel coat on the outside. Not that I really trust it, but I also probably wouldn't be grinding on this too much, because there's no telling how the fiberglass actually is. Doesn't look too bad. There's that rust again. Yeah, hard to say what that was, but I also got to pull this guy off, the depth finder. Eventually I need to pull this ladder off, and it's got a few other connections up there, so we'll need to pull that off before we can set the new transom in. But for the most part, if you saw that little ski puller, whatever you want to call it, got that out of the way, because that's going to be a nuisance. And then obviously we can see in here, I think what the plan is going to be is I'm going to take my oscillating saw and I'm going to cut right here around this way, and then I'm going to trace this line out all the way across, right? You can see all these stress cracks. I'm going to cut all the way here right to that line, follow that contour, and then cut that. And what this will do is I'll be able to pull this piece off, right, all the way across, and essentially I should be able to put a brand new transom in here, right? Should just be able to drop the transom in place and then put some clamps from the top, right? And then probably go ahead and re-drill those spots afterwards. And same thing with these guys here where the outboard hooks up to. And instead of using these plastic pieces, which, like I said, probably contributed to the whole leaking piece that later deteriorated this transom area. So we'll probably redo those with brass. Those are pretty easy. I've got a video on setting these guys up, putting the brass in there, and they've held up pretty well. I can tell you on the other red boat that we did, I'll link that in the upper right hand corner. You can watch that episode where we set these little drains in here, and not only on that boat we just did one. This one we're gonna have to do 3. So 2 for the top and then 1 for the flooring area down below. But yeah, removing this guy here definitely allowed us for some more room. But I mean, just take a look at this. It's gonna be a monster. And I think I've said it a few times, and maybe if you didn't catch it, we are gonna put marine grade plywood in there. I know some people say Kusa board. I think that's how you pronounce it. Some people recommend that, but I've got a lot of marine grade plywood. So as you can imagine, I'm gonna use it all up. And this transom really isn't big compared to some of the others that I've worked on in the past. So this should be relatively easy to conquer. Let's take a little walk up to the front now. All right, let me show you the next part. You see how I have this taped up here? This is just basically a straight edge, if you would, of where I'm gonna cut. And as I mentioned, right, I need access to the floor underneath it to be able to make this floor, so if you follow my hand, right, go all the way towards the bow, right? And I can't get to it because, right, that's in the way, and this whole top section's in the way. I've done fiberglass in the past where I've actually slid the pieces underneath, and I've actually cut like the inners out here and then kind of worked it up, you know, put the fiberglass in here. It's a lot of work. It's a mess. It's easier to just make a straight line, right? Cut that whole section out. And then if I want to put it back in afterwards, I can do that. Or if I want to redesign, right, the seating that's here, shouldn't be any problem at all. And the other piece, you could probably tell, I totally forgot, I drilled out these rivets here. We'll just poke those all the way through. And there was like a metal piece that was here. Not really sure what that was for. I don't know if it was stock or not. It looks way cleaner without that added. It was like a piece of sheet metal. You can see, right, the outline that went all the way across. I may leave it off, we'll see. And then obviously where those blowers are, there's one on each side. I need to unbolt those, and I shouldn't therefore have a lot more access underneath. You can see right there where that blower hose is, right there. We need to grind that down and then finish up this section here. Got a lot more work ahead of us. So yeah, and look at this guy here. You think that's stainless? Probably not. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get suited up. It's a pretty big ordeal to get suited up and work on fiberglass, right? Safety first. But yeah, let's go ahead, cut this out. And on the next episode, we'll go in and I'll grind all this up so you can see what it looks like with this piece removed. Same thing with the forward section up there. I think while I'm suited up, I'm probably gonna cut that center piece off. You can see water right there. And I'm just not confident that that's in a good state. And when we run our floor across this, right, the last thing you want to do is leave any traces of moisture underneath it. It's only going to deteriorate the floor above it. Even though I do coat both sides of the marine grade plywood with resin, you just don't want to leave any chances of extra moisture under that floor. So anyway, I hope you liked this episode. I got a lot of work to do here, so I'm going to cut this video as it is. hit that subscribe button, follow the series. This is kind of the more interesting part of the video series because people like to really get into the inner workings of rebuilding a boat. And as we mentioned earlier, this boat probably isn't worth it, you know, for the normal person to rebuild, but I want to show you all what it takes to rebuild something like this. If you are interested, hit that subscribe button one more time if you haven't already. Like the video, leave some comments. I love reading them. I will definitely try to reply to them as soon as I can, and we will catch you on the next episode, everybody. Have a good one.